I'm actually going to talk first from a legal standpoint as to the standard which you should be setting your safeguards. And depending upon what industries you all are in, and to the extent that you're in healthcare, finance, what have you, you may already be dealing with HIPAA, Gramm-Leach, Bliley, what have you. If you're a quote-unquote generic business, the standard to which you should be working is a reasonableness standard. And reasonableness means looking at the size of your business, your financial resources, and what types of assets that you have that you should be protecting. And when I say assets, you also need to think about, we've talked about social security numbers of your personnel, but if you're a third-party vendor to somebody whose data you control, to somebody's new recipe, to somebody's new technology, to somebody's new ad campaign, do you have a contractual obligation to your customers to keep their information confidential, such that if you are compromised, you're now having to call up so that when the God forbid does happen and law enforcement comes in and says, what did you do? You can say, here are my policies and procedures, and here are when I trained my people last on them. What I would also suggest anybody in this room does is go back and take a look at your website, assuming that you all have e-commerce sites or even an informational site. If you've got privacy policies and terms and conditions on your websites, does it say that the last time it was updated was 5 years ago? If the answer is yes, that's a problem. If your website says we use best practices to protect your information and you're not using even reasonable practices, you have a problem. Make sure you know what you've said you're going to do and then do it. And if you haven't done it, do it sooner rather than later.
Excellent points there. Policies and procedures, paperwork, a lot of us, we tend to push that off as business owners. Who enjoys that? Not many. I know I can't stand it. I had to discipline myself after having our company compromised to go through that very carefully. And as some of the points that Michelle even mentioned, ask yourself, and if not, if you don't know, check. Do you have a Boyd policy? If you're not sure, then you better research that and make sure that you do have it, because what happens? Many employees will bring their own device into work, be it a laptop, a phone, maybe they're working at home. What does that do? It opens up the opportunity, again, it's something to get onto your network. So if you don't know if you have those policies and procedures, take a moment to review that and make sure that you have it current and that it's very clear, and that all the employees within your organization understand clearly what the policies are and what are the ramifications if you're not meeting those policies. Very, very important, and it's becoming a huge risk because a lot of companies tend to say, well, it's not that big a deal. We're a small company. It affects all of us, so we want to make sure we really take the time to go through that, even if we can't stand documentation and all the little things, or it will go down the line to where it gets to the insurances and legal, and then it becomes a mess trying to understand all that, what the outcomes are.